Today, we're diving into a fascinating source text that makes a pretty bold claim that we are right in the middle of a massive paradigm shift in how we view human health. The text is called The Biofield Revolution, the new orthodoxy of vibrational medicine, and it argues that the future of healing isn't just about chemicals anymore. It's actually vibrational. So we're going to break down the core concepts, look at the specific clinical therapies the text really champions, and unpack this philosophy of what the author calls field medicine. We're just looking neutrally at the claims directly from the source to figure out exactly what this proposed revolution is all about and why it's challenging traditional biology. Let's get into it. Right off the bat, the text hits us with this incredible quote. It says, humanity is, quote, stepping out of the crumbling husk of outdated paradigms and waking up to the idea that the self is far more radiant, interconnected, and vibrationally alive than we ever dared to believe. The source argues that stuff we used to just brush off as the murmurs of visionaries or mystics is actually being confirmed by modern science. It claims that healing happens at the level of energy and information first, way before it even touches our biology. And apparently this idea is popping up in real laboratories and peer-reviewed journals. It perfectly sets the stage for the whole thesis. We're leaving an old, mechanical era of medicine in the dust and entering a luminous, interconnected new one. To really help us grasp this shift, the source sets up a super stark contrast. On one side, you have the old paradigm. This is traditional medicine, which the text describes as chemical domination, basically fighting symptoms and treating the body like a machine that just needs its broken parts repaired. But then, on the flip side, we have the new paradigm. Here, the focus totally shifts to vibrational entrainment and restoring coherence. So instead of a broken machine, the body is viewed as this dynamic, interactive field. The author makes the case that popping a pharmaceutical pill often just slaps a band-aid on the symptom, completely ignoring the underlying energetic disharmony. This new paradigm, the text claims it's all about reweaving that coherence where it's been lost. Okay, so if the body is a field, what does that actually mean? Well, the text defines the biofield as a structured matrix of electromagnetic, biophotonic, and quantum informational energies. And this matrix is supposedly surrounding and interpenetrating our entire physical body. Think of it kind of like the invisible magnetic field around a magnet. You can't see it with your naked eye, sure, but the source insists it is an absolute measurable reality. It claims you can actually map this field using highly sensitive instruments like magnetometers or observe it through Kirlian photography. The whole argument here is that by interacting directly with this invisible biofield, alternative therapies can tackle the root vibrational distortions that cause disease, rather than just chasing the chemical symptoms down the line. Moving on to the modalities, 3 tuning forks of healing. Let's take a look at the 3 specific clinical therapies that the text champions as the absolute forefront of this revolution. The very first one the source dives into is PEMF, which stands for Pulsed Electromagnetic Field Therapy. Basically, this tech delivers really finely tuned electromagnetic pulses straight into the body. And the text goes out of its way to say, hey, this isn't magic. It actually points to very specific biological mechanisms. For instance, the author states that studies show PEMF influences ion exchange across cell membranes. It modulates signal transduction pathways, which simply put is just how your cells talk to each other, and it can even upregulate the genes that are responsible for tissue regeneration. The text mentions it being used clinically for everything from healing bone fractures to reducing chronic pain and accelerating wound healing. The big takeaway the author wants us to get here is that PEMF doesn't use chemical intervention. It just encourages our cells to retune themselves to their original healthy harmonics. Building right off of that, we get to the second modality, laser light therapy, or what the text also calls low-level laser therapy or photobiomodulation. This one is all about applying coherent light at very specific wavelengths. And again, the biological claims are super concrete. The source says this light penetrates your tissue without causing any heat damage, and once it's in there, it stimulates mitochondrial function, ramps up ATP production, which is literally the vital energy currency of your cells, and it even modulates inflammatory responses. But the text takes it a step further than just the biochemistry. It argues that on a deeper level, this structured light is interacting directly with the biophotonic structures of the body's field. By framing light itself as medicine, the source claims there are numerous studies confirming it works for treating things like nerve injuries and even modulating cognitive functions in neurodegenerative diseases. And that brings us to the third and, honestly, probably the most radical modality presented in the text, quantum touch. Pioneered by people like Richard Gordon, this practice completely ditches the devices and steps right into the realm of human consciousness. The source explains that quantum touch uses human intention. The practitioner focuses their intention through breath and visualization to generate this highly coherent vibrational field, and then they offer that field to the recipient.
This supposedly allows the recipient's own biofield to entrain upward into a higher state of order. Now, the text fully acknowledges that this sounds out there and is viewed with heavy skepticism in conservative medical circles. But the author insists that mounting evidence, from case studies to actual electromagnetic field measurements and patient outcomes, points to some really profound physical effects. We're talking claims of realigning bones and reducing inflammation, literally all through the power of focused intention.
When you synthesize these three modalities, a really clear pattern emerges from the text. You've got distinct mechanisms for each, right? Tuned electromagnetic pulses for PEMF, coherent light wavelengths for laser therapy, and focused human intention for quantum touch. But the text argues that they are all targeting the exact same underlying biological matrix. Whether it's modulating cellular communication, boosting energy production, or creating that upward biofield entrainment, the source posits that these are really just different pathways to achieve the exact same goal, interacting directly with the living fields of the human body.
All of this gets tied together by what the text calls a unifying principle. Step 1, do not wage war on symptoms. The author is absolutely adamant that true healing does not come from fighting the body. Step 2 is all about restoring cellular coherence, basically bringing the body back into its natural state of order. And step 3, nourish the original vibrational template. According to the source, these therapies aren't forcefully commanding your body to heal. Instead, they're more like an invitation. They remind the body of its own innate, sovereign capacity to regenerate. They work with these living matrices of light, sound, and magnetism that the text beautifully says weave the temple of the body.
So, this brings us to a pretty profound philosophical pivot in the text. The author asks us to step back and really consider a fundamental question. Is the human being merely a machine to be repaired? The entire source pushes back incredibly hard against that mechanistic view of human biology. Instead, the text argues that the medicine we've been desperately seeking outside of ourselves for centuries is actually already humming right there within our own cells. It just needs the right frequencies, the right breath, and the right remembering to wake it up.
Which leads us right to the author's final, provocative conclusion. The text states, you are a field being, a vibrational symphony clothed in visible form. The author makes it crystal clear that the PEMF machines, the laser lights, even the quantum touch, they aren't the miracles themselves. They are just the tuning forks. According to the source, the miracle is you. The text concludes by saying that the field has actually always been singing, and humanity is finally beginning to remember the music. It's a really fascinating perspective on the future of health, shifting all that power away from external chemical interventions and placing it right back into the innate energetic architecture of the human body. So, what do you think? Does this vibrational model change how you view your own health? Well, that wraps up our explainer on the Biofield Revolution. Thanks so much for joining me, and keep exploring.
Thank you for watching. If something in this resonated with you, then you're already closer than you think. If you're ready to go deeper, there's a link below to my book, Quantum Healing Codes: Unlock the New Science of Self-Rejuvenation. This isn't theory, it's a framework you can actually use. Tap the link below and step into it.